about to see has become something of a trademark for me as a trainer of NLP. The first trainer's training I ever trained on was in Vancouver in 1995, and I was asked to do one of the morning sessions on chaining anchors. I knew the people there were expecting to see me use absolutely everything we teach on the 12-day trainer's training, and I wanted to put something special together for them, but I had no clue what to do. The night before I was about to present it, I had no clue. I thought, when I wake up in the morning, then I'll have an idea. I woke up in the morning, still no clue. I thought, I'll have breakfast, something will come to me. I'd finished my breakfast, and still nothing was there. So I went to sit by the pool for a while just before I started to present. And I'd taken a book with me. It was Deepak Chopra's Return of Merlin. I opened the book, read a few pages, and then it came to me. So what you're about to see is my version of Merlin and Arthur. And you'll see me demonstrating pretty much everything that you can do with NLP as a presenter and a trainer. You'll see me demonstrating things which I don't have time to teach on Presenting Magically. Enjoy. So how are you doing with your metaphors? I can see people scribbling away. My guess is you're writing your metaphors. Oh, it's hard. Yeah. Well, I know. I know it's hard from personal experience because when I was doing my NLP trainers training, which would be back in 1903. 1903, yeah. Yeah, I did my NLP trainers training 70 years before it was invented. And so there we are, first day of NLP trainers training. And we get to the end of the first day. And one of the trainers said, so for tomorrow, first thing, you're going to need 5 metaphors. And you're going to have to, as soon as we start on trainers training, you're going to be up in front of your group, you're going to be delivering your metaphors. No time to prepare, so you've got to do it all tonight before tomorrow morning. I could feel myself sliding down the chair, you know. Oh no. Because I thought I'm an absolutely terrible, awful storyteller. But I mean, it wasn't just an idea, I actually knew I was. Because several years earlier, I was doing a coaching training, learning to become an achievement coach. So we went on a 5-day training to learn how to become an achievement coach. And the trainer of that training had just discovered metaphors and believed that they were the best thing since sliced bread, which is a metaphor in and of itself if you think about it. So for 5 days, all we did was metaphors. Now imagine that, 5 days of metaphors with the belief that you're terrible at metaphors. I mean, it was dreadful. So it came to the last day. I'm thinking, last day, wow, that's good news. And so we're all sat there, and it was a business training, so it wasn't laid out like this. Tables were laid out like in a U shape. And there was 13 of us on the training. I was sat over here. And a friend of mine, Andy Cooper, was sat here. And the trainer comes in and said, okay, so, metaphors. Here we go again. And he said, I want each of you to give me an example of a metaphor that you could use in coaching to empower people. Andy, you start. No warning, no preparation, no nothing. I don't know if you've ever had one of these experiences. Have you ever been really, really pleased that you were going to go last? Okay, I've got 12 people before me. That's good news. So Andy, poor Andy has to start, you know. I'm thinking, wow, Andy. And Andy starts off telling his metaphor. And unfortunately, it was absolutely brilliant. So I'm thinking, where did that come from, Andy? Then the trainer just goes like, okay, you, can't remember the person's name, you, what's your metaphor? And this guy comes out with a metaphor that's even better than Andy's. You ever had one of those experiences where you wished you'd ever gone first? Because I'm thinking, if the trend keeps going and getting better and better and better and better, by the time it gets around to me at number 13, I'm going to be a huge disappointment to the crowd at large, you know, thinking. So I'm starting to rack my brains, you know, okay, what's my metaphor, what's my metaphor, what's my metaphor, what's my metaphor? I don't know if you ever experienced this, but sometimes when you're listening to people telling stories and telling metaphors, you tend to kind of like drift off into a bit of a trance, from time to time. And that's what happened to me. There's like metaphors going around the table, and I start disappearing off into a trance. And it took me back to a time when I was a kid, and I was playing with one of those radios I told you about earlier that I got working, and I was tuning around the dial, listening to various station, your awareness, on different things. And there was a particular radio station that really caught my ear. If we're talking about synesthesias yesterday, I guess that would be an auditory kinesthetic synesthesia, And the reason it caught my ear was because it was broadcasting a radio play. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard radio plays before, like the ones they broadcast on Radio 4 here in the UK. And it was a radio play about Merlin and Arthur, the great wizard Merlin and Arthur, the King of England. When I was a kid, I was really, really, really into wizards. So I was completely transfixed by this radio play. And radio plays are different than watching TV or going to the movies or any of those kind of things because there's no pictures. So when you listen to a radio play, you literally have to go inside and make up your own pictures because there are none, So you have no choice. You have to go inside and make up your own pictures to the story, which is what happened. I'm listening to this thing, and I'm almost like pulled in through the radio, and I'm in the world of Merlin and Arthur, hundreds of years ago. And you probably know the story, but Arthur was the actual true King of England, though nobody knew it. Merlin knew it, but nobody else knew it. And years before, what Merlin had done was he'd taken a sword, it was called Excalibur, and he stuck it into a stone. And he cast a spell on it so that only the true rightful King of England would be able to pull the sword from the stone, and then everyone would know that this person was the true rightful King of England. And there've been a number of people in the past who tried to pull Excalibur from the stone. But of course, since they only tried, then it didn't work. But also, they weren't the true King of England. And Merlin had spent several years teaching Arthur magic. And Arthur was getting pretty good at it. In fact, Merlin quite often said to him, "You are significantly better at this than you think you are. You know plenty of magic. You just don't know it yet. You just don't believe it yet. What you need to do is you need to go out there and actually work your magic." So the scene was set. There was the sword in the stone, Excalibur there, in the stone. And Merlin and Arthur. Merlin was there on his medieval bar stool. And it was time for Arthur to work the magic that he knew and take the sword from the stone and claim his position of being King of England. So he was there, looking at the sword in the stone, thinking about what he'd got to do. And as he started to think about actually taking the sword from the stone, he began to do you know what I mean, Chris? He was and you think he's gonna no, he was like hesitating. Have you ever hesitated? Have you ever done that? I mean, not right now, but have you ever hesitated? He was almost like he was anchored to the spot, So Merlin was looking on at all this and thought, poor Arthur. There must be something that I can do to help him with all the magic that I knew. And of course, in Merlin's day, it was thought that words were magic. And Merlin knew about the magic of words. So he looked at Arthur and he said, "Arthur, how would you rather be instead? How would you like to feel instead? And no sooner had the words left Merlin's mouth and entered into Arthur's neurology, you could see certain things begin to change inside. And Arthur said, well, I want to stand there, holding Excalibur on my hands, feeling the energy of Excalibur coursing down my arms, filling up my entire body. Because then he said, then, just by doing that one thing, I know I can do anything. Just doing that one thing, I know I can do absolutely everything. So Merlin sat there and thought, okay, so how do I get him from here to here? As he was pondering about things, this huge bird flew overhead. Because in those days they had bigger birds, big birds. This big bird flew overhead. And it was around about kind of 10:15 by Merlin's sundial. And, the bird had had breakfast earlier, and it was feeling a little heavy for flying, so it was time to let go of some stuff, if you know what I mean. So it flew overhead, and it just happened to let go of its stuff as it was over the top of Merlin, and this... And it fell completely on Merlin's head. Oh, shit, he thought. It's interesting, though. Interesting learning to get from this is that even great magicians and great wizards do get dumped on every now and again. You need to realize that, But, Merlin knew about cause and effect and perception is projection, responsibility for results and those kind of things. So, he thought, well, if perception is projection, and I've just been dumped on, who have I dumped on recently from a great height? And if cause and effect, if cause and effect is true, and I'm the creator of my universe, how did I create this? And what do I need to learn from this to create things differently in the future? And no sooner he asked himself those questions, and ideas and learnings and stuff like that came up into his mind. And some of them were useful, some of them were crazy, some of them were funny, but he always liked to pick one learning a day. And his learning for the day, which is very important, and you might actually want to write this down because this is a real profound learning, and particularly useful in a multiple of situations that you might come across. And it's real food for thought. And the learning is this: never, 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 never look up with your mouth open. No, it's true though, if you think about it, And, I think it's good that you get the learning without having to learn it personally, because it's just one of those things. So Merlin came out of his, learning trance. And Arthur was there, once again, looking at Excalibur and hesitating. He thought, right, it's time to work some magic. So he looked at Arthur, hesitated, and he said, Arthur? Last time you hesitated, what was it that got you out of it? Because something must have got you out of it. Because I know you've hesitated in the past, and if you didn't get out of it, you'd never come to find me in the first place. So something must have got you out of the hesitation, so you come to find me. And again, no sooner had the words left Merlin's mouth and entered into Arthur's neurology, you could see the changes take place. And Arthur said, well, you see, I just get so frustrated with myself. Really, really, really frustrated with myself. So frustrated with myself. Have you ever been frustrated? Have you ever been that frustrated? You have, haven't you? Yeah, you've been that frustrated. I mean, can you remember a time in the past when you felt that frustrated? Really, really, really frustrated. You could feel the color in your face because you're so... Now, Merlin thought, I better work fast because it's going to explode and make a mess. So he said, well, last time you were frustrated like that, what got you out of the frustration? Something must have got you out of it, because you'd have worn yourself out if you stayed like that for too long. What gets you out of the frustration? And Arthur, again, you could see the change in his physiology, and he said, well, it's like you have one of those aha moments, something clicks inside. It's like a light bulb comes on. Something clicks inside, you go, aha, Have you ever had one of those? Where maybe you're wondering about something, some problem that you had, then suddenly you had a revelation about it, and it was like, now I know what to do. You've ever had that? You've had that, haven't you? Yeah. And if you were Archimedes, you'd say Eureka, and then claim on the insurance for the water damage. That's what you'd have to do, because it's just the idea just pops into your mind, something clicks, and a light bulb comes on. So Merlin thought, yeah, we're getting somewhere now. This is good. But you see, Merlin knew a lot of people who knew exactly what to do, that never actually got round to actually doing it. I don't know if you know anybody like that, Somebody knows exactly what to do, to be able to be who they want to be, to be able to do what they want to do, and be able to have what they want to have. They know exactly what to do, but they never quite get round to taking the action and do it now. And Merlin didn't want that for Arthur, so he said to Arthur, what comes right between knowing exactly what to do and actually doing it? And again, the words began to work their magic inside of Arthur's neurology. A wry smile came in his face. He said, well, it's like you get right on the verge, right on the edge. You know that feeling of being right on the verge, the feeling of being right on the edge? It's a bit like, when you know you're going to sneeze. You know that feeling? You've had it before, right? You know you're going to sneeze, but you haven't sneezed yet, but you know you're going to. And it's like, and you can feel it building up inside you. You know that feeling? And it's interesting, I don't know if you know this, but you use exactly the same muscles when you sneeze as when you, what is it? It'll come to me in a second. You know that feeling? Like you're right on the verge, right on the edge. You ever been right on the edge? Come on, I know you've been right on the edge, even if you were by yourself. Like right on the verge, right on the edge, and it builds up, and it builds up, and it builds up inside of you, and it builds up, and it builds up, and you're going, yeah, is this it? Is it? And it builds up some more, and it builds up some more, and it builds up some more. And even more than that, and even more than that, and you're getting closer and closer and closer and closer, and you're going, yeah, I think and it builds up, and you're going, am I there yet? And you go, I don't know, but I'm willing to experiment, and it's like it builds up, and it builds up, and it builds up, and it gets closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to the edge. And you're thinking, so, that's right. So Merlin thought, now we can do it. We've got everything that we need for this now. So I don't know if you've ever heard about this in the past, but historically, apparently, there was magic in wizards and magicians' gestures. They could do magic with their hands, But if you think about it, I guess that would make sense with, from what we know now in NLP, that 55% of the meaning of communication being in physiology. So there would be magic in gesture, to think about it. But you already know that kind of thing, don't you? You do, don't you? Yeah, absolutely every single one of you knows this, because I taught it yesterday. So stop messing around. But hey, if you want to mess around, that's okay with me. So Arthur was there, and once again he was hesitating for the sword with the stone. And what happened was that then Merlin fired off a magical gesture in Arthur's direction. And it went something like this. It went. And no sooner had he done that, there's this strange chain of events began to take place within Arthur's neurology. Because he was there, and he was doing his, that one, yeah, he was, but then just as he changed, it's like, and you could see the frustration building up inside him. You could see the color change. It was like his entire body was filled with frustration. And then suddenly it was, now I know what to do. And you could actually see the light come on in his head. And he said out loud, aha, that's it. Now I know what to do. And the idea filtered down into his consciousness, and you could see him then, and he began to get closer and closer and closer to the edge. Closer and closer, and you could see it build up, and it was building up, and he was building up, and he was building up, and he was building up, and you're going, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? Is he? Is he going to do it? It's building up. It's building up. It's getting more and closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to the edge. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, with one swish, Excalibur was out of the stone. And you'd be able to actually see the energy of Excalibur course down his arms and filling up his body. And if you'd seen him at that moment in time, you'd have said, now there is somebody that can do absolutely anything. There is somebody that can do absolutely everything. And Merlin sat there and looked at Arthur now and thought, quite a good morning's work, really. So let's talk about eliciting states from audiences, shall we? Isn't that a good idea? Nod this way for yes. Oh, welcome back. There we go.